Welcome to this free immigration help channel. Today is August 16, 2023, and we are getting into volume 150 of me answering your immigration related questions. As always, before beginning this video, as I mentioned in every video, I am not an immigration attorney. This is not legal advice. All the information provided in these videos on this channel are directly from official government sources like USCIS and of course the Department of State with their visa bulletin. So let's start with the very first question comment from Ahmad Yassin 3182. Please can you talk about the new guideline for the stateless? Thank you. Ahmad, thank you very much for this question. So yes, USCIS, Department of Homeland Security that is, but USCIS, they posted the news release basically about the new procedures that are being implemented in order to better treat individuals that are, that can be considered stateless. And basically a stateless individual is the one that does not have the nationality from any country. So that pertains to stateless individuals that are already here in the United States of America, or are entering the United States of America, or are outside of the United States of America. Unfortunately, they didn't really give much in detail what exactly are they going to be doing. Really, mostly whenever it comes to the information that we know of as of right now, is that they will be implementing these new trainings for immigration, the customs and border protection officers, immigration officers, depending on who's dealing with these stateless individuals, to basically better treat these individuals. That's really all it is. But it's for now it is pretty vague. It is pretty spaced out. It is good that they are doing something and implementing new stuff in order to kind of streamline the process, in order to understand the issues better. But at the same time, you have to keep in mind that it's nothing really that is concrete. So really only time will tell, and we will see what's going to happen. They say that they are estimating about over 200,000 people that are in the United States of America that are stateless, and they are planning to basically offer the pathways for adjudication, to adjust status. And if you're a stateless individual and you're looking for a pathway in order to become an immigrant, legal immigrant, become permanent resident, U.S. citizen. Hopefully there will be, there are now pathways depending on what status you're in, how you enter. There can be a lot of different situations. So I think as of right now, it's better to look at, case by case rather than in general. It's good that they're doing something and they're trying to do something, to kind of streamline the process and make it easier, but at the same time, it's nothing concrete. If you want to learn more though, and it goes for everyone, if you want to learn more, you can find it on the USCIS. This is the official government website for U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services. If you go to Newsroom, it's not appearing here, so you will have to click on all USCIS news right here. And then it was, I think, August 1st. Yes, there you go. Department of Homeland Security issues guidance for stateless non-citizens in the United States. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to post my answer here. And I'll put the link for you, Ahmad, if you want to check it out and learn a little bit more about this. Okay, let's move on to the next question coming from Mark Dismang 8550. Thank you for being publicly subscribed, Mark. I really appreciate that. So Mark says, my wife had work authorization, but it is expiring. She applied for adjustment of status because we got married. Can she still continue to work while waiting for her work authorization? Okay, Mark, thank you very much. That's a great question. So while it is still, the card itself, while it is valid, obviously, if it's expiring in 3 months and, within those 3 months, yes, that can definitely work. No problems at all. However, once it expires, it comes down to a question on which status based on this employment authorization was issued on. For example, if, let's say, it was issued based on some kind of work visa, let's say non-immigrant work visa, for example, and it is still valid, she's still employed, and she continues to work. In those situations, it is not going to be a problem if employment authorization is expired, and let's say if you're waiting for the renewal of that employment authorization, but in this gap between this one being expired and you didn't get the new one yet, if she has some kind of status, and in my example that I gave, let's say non-immigrant work visa, if on that status she's legally able to work in the United States, it's not going to be a problem. However, if let's say the status also is expiring with the employment authorization, that's why let's say the employment authorization was issued with a specific expiration date, because the status that allows her to work in the United States will be expiring as well, then you might have a little bit of an issue, and you definitely don't want to be kind of working beyond what it was allowed to work in the first place. In most situations, however, the employment authorization document is not attached to the status, so most of the times it's going to be fine and it's not going to be a problem. But again, because you are waiting for the adjustment of status based on marriage, make sure that she doesn't get out of her legal status in the United States as whatever status she's on right now in the United States. And obviously she had something that allowed her to work and allows her to work right now. So just make sure that she maintains that until you actually finish up with the adjustment of status based on marriage. Because pending family reunification petition does not give you a legal right to remain in the United States, as for example, let's say, like a temporary protected status or asylum or something along those lines, where you file a petition and while the petition is pending, you can remain legally in the United States. If you need an option for her to stay in the United States while she's waiting for something, the best thing to do is to do the extension of stay, change of status, extension of stay, form I-539. So if that is applicable, you might want to look into that one. But yes, hopefully I was able to answer your question. Let me know if you have any follow-up questions. Okay, let's post the answer here, and we're going to move on to the next question coming from Fan Mile Omajolgbe. Probably mispronounced that, sorry about that. 1882. How long will it take for my unmarried child, I'm assuming over 21 years, to be called for interview? Their priority date is April 2015. Okay, so unmarried over 21. It really depends if you are a US citizen or a permanent resident. Because if you are a US citizen, unmarried over 21 is going to be F1, first preference category. If you are a permanent resident, unmarried, daughter or son over 21, it's going to be F2B and F1. Now I think they're pretty close, but let's take a look at the visa bulletin. Your child is April 2015, priority date in April 2015. So let's take a look and see what we got. F1 and F2B. So let's see, your April 2015. So F1 is January 2015. F2B is September 2015. So if you're a US citizen petitioning for your son or daughter over 21, it's going to be F1. So that means that the immigrant visa is already current, because January 2015, we're already in January 2015. As of right now, the September 2023 visa bulletin. So that means it's already current. So you should be getting, the interview should be scheduled for your child really, I would say, anytime now. Most of the times, whenever it comes to, scheduling the interviews for all the administrative processing that they do to schedule the interview after the immigrant visa becomes available, most of the times it's about 6 months wait. So as of January, you're not January, so this is my math is horrible, so please be patient with me. So it's January, I'm gonna count January, February, March, so 3 months. So 3 months ago, roughly, the immigrant visa was available for your child, for your son or your daughter, over 21. I would say another 3-4 months, if it is F1 category, you probably should have your interview already know the date of the interview when it's going to be scheduled for. And you can always call the US embassy in the country where the beneficiary is at, where your child is at, and ask if the interview, because most likely the interview was already scheduled if it's F1, because it's been already 3 months past the availability of the immigrant visa. Now, if it's F2B, if you're a permanent resident petitioning for your child, then it's going to be F2B, and right now it's showing September 2015. So that means that your son or your daughter is about, let's see, April, May, June, July, August, about 4, maybe 5 months away from the availability of the immigrant visa. So you have a little bit more to wait. Once it is available, obviously you have a little bit more to wait again for them to schedule the interview. So you're probably looking, I would say, beginning of 2024, maybe even mid 2024 for the interview. And again, these are very rough estimates. But if you want, let me know if you are a US citizen or a permanent resident, and I'll take a look again and maybe be able to provide you a little bit better estimates. Okay, let me post the answer, and we're gonna move on to the next one from Osigve Rachel 1021. Hi, my priority date is April 2022 for CR1 visa type. When do you think I will get my interview letter? Alright, so CR1, conditional resident 1, that's a spouse of a US citizen that were, married less than 2 years. That's why it's CR, conditional resident. But nevertheless, it is still in the immediate relative category, which means that once I-130 is approved with USCIS, the immigrant visa becomes immediately available, which is, fantastic. And since you were, your priority date is back in April 2022, which is more than a year now. Let's see, we are in August, April, May, June, July, August. So we are like a year and 4 months already you're waiting. I'm assuming that you are already documentarily qualified, but if you're not, let me know. I would really appreciate to kind of know the timelines, but I think you are already documentarily qualified because it's been more than a year now and you are in immediate relative category. So I would say your interview should be really, if you are documentarily qualified, depending how long ago you were documentarily qualified, because once you are documentarily qualified, they send the documents to the US Embassy to schedule the interview. And since you are in immediate relative category, the immigrant visa is immediately available. So really the only thing you are waiting for, if it is already sent to the US Embassy, the interview has already been scheduled. And really that kind of is, that goes for everyone who's waiting for their interview date. If your immigrant visa is already available, if you are already documentarily qualified and you've been waiting for 3-4 months past the documentary qualification process, assuming that your immigrant visa is available, most likely your interview is already scheduled. The only reason why you do not know that is because they cannot tell you the date earlier than 30 days before the actual interview date. And they do that because they need those 30 days so that you do the medical examination within 30 days. That's why I say, if you know that your immigrant visa is available, if you know that you're already done and the only thing you're waiting for is just that interview, you can call the US Embassy and say, hey, I'm in this and this status, my immigrant visa is already available. I just want to see when you guys schedule the interview for. They cannot send you the official interview date notice, only 30 days before the actual interview date. But unofficially over the phone, sometimes in some situations, they might let you know. Not always, don't be upset if they don't, but sometimes they might. Okay, let me post the answer here. And for everyone, if you want to find your US Embassy in whatever country you're at, just go to usembassy.gov and it will list all of the countries that, any of the countries you can click on, and it will show you the details for the US Embassy with the phone number and everything. If this loads right here, I don't know what's going on today, this one doesn't want to load. Well, I'll keep it. Oh, there you go. So here's the list of all the countries. Whatever country you're from, let's say Ethiopia. There, Ethiopia. Click on that. And let's see the list of US embassies. If there's multiple, they will come up as multiple. If there's one, it will be just one. This website is surprisingly slow today. Not sure what's going on, but let's leave this for now. Go back, answer another question, and I'll... Oh, there you go. Ethiopia came up. There you go. And this is it. Actually, this is the first one that I'm looking at that does not have the phone number listed here. Most of them, they have the phone number listed here, but not Ethiopia. I don't know why. I guess you will have to actually click on the embassy website and find the number there. Okay, moving further to Alicia Gordon 1461. I was filed for in 2018. I'm in F2B category. When do you think I'll be eligible to go to the next step? Waiting for NVC portal to open up. I'm outside the United States. All right, Alicia, thank you very much for the question. Let's take a look. So if you want to find out when your NVC portal is opening up, we have to be looking at the graph B on the visa bulletin. Dates for filing right here. So Alicia is in F2B, filed in 2018. Now I'm going to be looking at all chargeability area, but Alicia, if you are in one of the 4 separate chargeability areas, China, India, Mexico, Philippines, obviously you will be looking at the count. But for the purpose of this video, we'll look at all chargeability area, F2B. Right now, the priority date for F2B, is it F2B? Let me double check. Yes, it is. F2B is January 2017. And Alicia, you're in 2018. So depending on which month of 2018 you are, but let's say, for example, again, you can estimate it yourself. But let's say, for example, if your priority date is in January 2018. Right now it is showing January 2017. So that means that as of right now, assuming that your priority date is in January 2018, as of right now, you have about 1 year before your NVC portal fully opens up so that you can start your documentary qualification process. Let's say if your priority date is in December 2018, then of course it's a little bit more time to wait. So it's a year and another roughly 11 months. But as of right now, again, things can change. Sometimes visa bulletin moves. Sometimes it moves pretty good, few months forward. Sometimes it doesn't move at all. Sometimes it retrogresses. So again, you would have to stay on top of the visa bulletin every month. Keep checking on it. Every month the new visa bulletin comes up on this channel. I make a separate video about it and I compare to the previous visa bulletin edition. So if you're not subscribed, you can consider subscribing. But you still have a little bit until you have the access to the NVC portal. You can start definitely preparing all the documents. Especially if your priority date is in January 2018, you're just 1 year away from it opening up. So if you have everything prepared for the documentary qualification process, once it opens up, you have it all ready. You just submit it in a few days and, done. If you're interested to know more about the documentary qualification process, I actually have a video on this channel and I would recommend it for everyone who's watching who have not done their documentary qualification process just yet. It's called Documentarily Qualified. What does it mean? And in that video, I show an actual NVC portal that was documentarily qualified, and you can see everything that needs to happen, all the fees, all the applications, all the documents that need to be submitted. So it will help you better prepare for your documentary qualification process. Okay, let's move on to the next one from Yamelo 7820 F1 priority date January 18th, 2018. Thank you for your answer. Here again for clarification, I have a B1, B2. Is it possible to enter on B1, B2, stay for 3 months, and then send application for adjustment of status? Yamelo, thank you very much for the question. That's a really, really good question. So with B1, B2, it's really not going to make much sense unless you're willing to file the extensions of stay. But then again, let's take a look at the F1, see how far you are from the availability of the immigrant visa. Because if you're really close, you might, consider that. Honestly, I don't really see much point of switching back and forth. But let's take a look at the visa bulletin, see how far you're from the availability of the immigrant visa. So right now, let's see. So you're September 17, we are September 17, and you are January 2018. So you're not even documentarily qualified yet, because your NVC portal should still be open, judging by the visa bulletin. Again, in some situations, in some cases, this doesn't apply, and they open the NVC portal and you can become documentarily qualified. In some cases, I've seen that happen. But judging by what we have right now, your NVC portal is still closed, and you're about, you're actually 3 years away from the availability of the immigrant visa. Because you are January 2018 and it's January 2015. That is, as of right now, September 2023, their immigrant visas are becoming available. So right now there is really not much point in doing that, because for 3 years you won't be able to remain in the country with the B1, B2 anyway. You can file the extension once, for 6 months, maybe twice for 6 months, possibly, but still you really are pushing it. There is just really not much point. If you had something that gave you a little bit more flexibility of staying in the United States of America, and maybe possibly something with the employment opportunity so they can be here and support yourself, but with the B1, B2, it really is 3 years away. Doesn't really make a lot of sense doing anything right now. Now in about 2.5 years, when if you still have the B1, B2, then yes, you might you might be able, that's it's a potential. Why not? You can come here and stay here, and then file an extension once. We'll be waiting for about a year for that extension to get approved, and meanwhile you will submit your adjustment of status, and once your immigrant visa becomes available, you already have the adjustment of status application submitted, so they can reschedule the interview. Instead of the U.S. Embassy, they schedule the U.S. Embassy they schedule the immigrant interview in one of the field offices here. Might be an option, but as of right now, it's a little bit too early for that one. Okay, let's move on to the next one. From a couple of comments actually from Z Snorlax. Very frustrating about F1 family sponsored. Since 2021, no change at all. When will this end? No movement, still at 01 March 12th. Very disappointing. God, please. Yes, Z Snorlax, I can definitely relate. And I mean, it's not just F1. There's a few family preference categories that have not had any movement for a very, very long time. We'll see what's going to happen. But yeah, it's very important to stay on top of the visa bulletin and check. But really, as of right now, I can agree, but I have no solution for that, unfortunately. Leona, Leo, and Sun Paintings says, thank you, you're very welcome. You're very welcome. Moving further to Sun and Stars 2. My question is, what is the difference between F1 and F2? I'm a US citizen that is sponsoring my spouse from Nigeria. I thought I was in category that moved faster. Now I'm not sure. 925, not sure what that is. Priority date is 10/28/22. Not documentarily qualified yet. Silent Stars, thank you very much for another question. Always appreciate your questions, your comments. So the difference between F1 and F2: F1 is first family preference category, and that's for children of US citizens who are over 21. Not the US citizens, but children. Children over 21 of US citizens who are unmarried. Again, not US citizens, the children. Since you are a US citizen and you're petitioning for your spouse is in immediate relative category. So your spouse will not be dealing with backlog at all. There is no F1, F2, it's immediate relative, it's IR1. So yes, once it is approved, and sounds like the petition was already approved, you're not documentarily qualified yet, but you are already approved by USCIS. I'm thinking, once it is approved by USCIS, the immigrant visa is already available. It immediately becomes available once the petition is approved. The only thing that, you will still wait for some time, to become documentarily qualified, and then to wait for the interview to be scheduled. Your spouse has the medical examination that they have to deal with. So there is still a lot of stuff involved, but you are not dealing with the visa backlog. You're not looking at the visa bulletin to see when the priority date becomes current. None of that, which is a huge plus. So F1 is, you can find that information actually here, is unmarried sons and daughters of US citizens. And then F2 is a whole separate, that has two subcategories, F2A and F2B. These are for permanent residents. Again, none of these apply to you. You're in the immediate relative category, which is great. So if your priority date is the end. So priority date is the end of 2022. So it's been about 10 months now. Most of the times, most of these cases take about year and a half at least, because you have to keep in mind USAS, it takes some time, like close to a year, to review your, I-130 petition. Once it is approved, then you have the NVC to deal with. Might be some back and forth. I would say about 6 months to deal with the NVC to become documentarily qualified. In best case scenario, where you submit everything and in one shot everything is good, 3 months, 4 months, but still it's time. And then waiting for the interview to be scheduled, so you see, there is time involved. So I would say you're probably looking, might not be by the end of this year, but I'm thinking beginning of 2024, probably you're looking more realistically beginning of the 2024. Okay, let's move on to the next question from Zoe Kevin 2021. Hello sir, thank you for all your help. I just filed my asylum case by myself, and while filling out my asylum application, it happened that I selected the wrong number, which was 18B. Okay, so that was something with the immigration court. Yeah, and I'm now in immigration court proceedings, obviously, and was a big mistake. I should have selected 18A. I have never been in immigration court proceedings, and I thought that's what I selected until I submitted. And I realized the mistake because he said my application was not accepted, because I indicated that I'm currently in a removal proceedings court. Please, how can I fix this? Actually, I'm not in court for any sort of. Thank you for answering me. Okay, so Zoe Kevin, so okay, so I see that your application is, you said that application was not accepted. I'm assuming you received the application package back and they send that you selected something wrong, you don't have the immigration proceedings in the court, nothing like this, so we're sending it back. If that's the case, all you have to do is just that one page, reprint it, fill it out correctly, and then send the application back with a cover letter saying, hey, I am attaching fixed, page. I was never in the court proceedings. Thank you for letting me know. It was my mistake, blah, 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 blah. That's it. If the application was not sent back to you, then a simple cover letter, just, sending it to the same place where you sent your application package. If you have your receipt number for the application, put it in there just so that you can identify it. If you don't have a receipt number, just put all your name, identifying information, and then send it to the same service center where you sent your application package, and then let them know that, hey, I made a mistake in the application. Could you please correct it? And then you identify where you made a mistake and then what information should be in there. And it should be pretty straightforward because, again, they see it on their end, they look at the application, and if there is no court proceedings with that application, and it does say in the application court proceedings, they will have a problem with it, of course, which is good because you don't want them to process it as something with the court proceedings. So depending on how it is, if you want, let me know in a follow-up comment exactly what happened. But like I said, if you receive the application back, just fix it and send it back to them with a cover letter explaining the correction. If you didn't get it back, just send them the cover letter explaining the mistake that you made and then asking them to correct it, and it should be pretty straightforward. All right, probably got a last one more question from Shinuda Bekit. Shinuda says, this is my third time asking. Shinuda, very sorry about not getting earlier to your comments. I really apologize. I do get a lot of comments every single day. I try to do videos every single day, but even doing it every single day, I still cannot catch up. So if Shinuda, sorry to you, and if you posted a question here and I didn't get to it, I'm very sorry. Post it again if it's urgent matter. Post it again on any other videos, and it will bring you to the top of this. I know this is not a very good system of answering questions, but this is the best one I can find so far, so that I can get to people who have more urgent matters faster, instead of somebody who's like asked a question from like 3 months ago that I missed, and now it's too late to answer it anyway, if that makes sense. Okay, Shinuda, let's get to you. So Shinuda says, thanks for answering me as always. Well, as you can see, not always. What do you think? I'm Egyptian and I have my passport valid for 4 years. If I travel to Dubai, for example, with my Egyptian passport, would that be a problem when I apply for naturalization? For how long am I able to stay abroad? Do I need any documents except my green card when I re-enter the States? other to travel outside? Thank you so much. God bless. Shinuda, that's a great question. So, it really depends. Egypt and, Dubai, Saudi Arabia, they're not too far from each other. The reason why I'm saying it is because if you travel to the area, and I don't remember what your situation is, but for anyone who is applying or already has an asylum status or a refugee status in the United States of America, obviously, from their country, it's not, obviously, it's a big no-no going back to the country where you're claiming the asylum from. It's a huge no-no. But it is definitely not recommended going anywhere in that surrounding area, especially using the passport from the country that you ran away from. Because if you're coming back to that area with the passport from that country, that, let's say it's a neighboring country, it's to an immigration officer during your naturalization interview, there will definitely be a question like, hey, you went back there to that area that you claimed asylum from. So, and you used your passport from the country that you ran away from. Did you really have problems in the country that you came from? Do you really feel threatened? Because if you can go back there using the same passport that you ran away with, yes, you're not returning back to the country that you ran away from, but you're going to the area, it's not too far, and my geography is not fantastic. It might be sufficient distance, but still, I know similar situations. I'm not saying it out of just, thin air. I know similar situations of people who had problems because they went back and it wasn't even remotely close. Like the countries were not even bordering with each other. And they still had a problem because you have to understand, for people here, most of the times, Central Asia is Central Asia. Middle East is Middle East. It doesn't matter whether it's this country or that country or this country. Europe is Europe, okay? So even if the countries don't border, if you're returning back to where you came from and you're claiming asylum from there, it's not gonna look good in the eyes. Can you do that? Yes, absolutely. Now, if you're traveling with the passport from your home country, and you are an asylee or a refugee, you would need to have a refugee travel document in order to come back to the United States. It does not guarantee the entry, and again, it is not recommended to travel at all on whether you're granted asylum or granted refugee status. It's not recommended to travel outside of the country whatsoever. Why? Because again, the refugee travel document, it does not guarantee your entry back into the United States. So that right there is already a risk. But as for the future, yes, you are definitely opening up doors for, potential problems during the naturalization interview. And as far as, do I need any documents except my green card when I re-enter the States? When you're traveling, once you have your permanent residence, no, you don't. Yes, obviously you need a valid passport, and that's going to be your Egyptian passport for sure. You will be. It's not going to change. That's the thing that a lot of, I think, a lot of people that have granted asylum or a refugee status, and then they get their permanent residence, they don't realize that they cannot get away from their immigration path because they came here based on, they claimed asylum or they came on a refugee status. And now whether they have their permanent residence or not, it's still very risky to return back to the area that they came from, that they ran away from. It becomes much safer to do that with US passport once you're naturalized. Still not recommended, but then it's, you're definitely better off. But again, if you're traveling back to the area, even with a permanent residence, you're opening up doors for some tough questions during that naturalization interview. So definitely at your own discretion, Shinuda. Thank you very much, everyone, for asking your questions today. As always, appreciate them. If you have any follow-up questions, more than welcome to ask them. I'm sorry if I don't get to them on time. I try my best. Hopefully, maybe I will be able eventually to dedicate more time to this channel, do these videos more often. But as of right now, it's really hard to balance everything. And I also wanted to say, because I've noticed some people joining the memberships to this channel, which is new. I haven't had any members on this channel. I really appreciate your support, because that income that, like I've been saying, that income that comes from these memberships, I spend it on translating the videos and posting the translated subtitles to the most watched videos on this channel, so that people, whatever the requests are, and if you do have a request for a specific language, drop them in the comments and I'll put on my to-do list and I will implement that as well. So thank you very much for your time. Always appreciate it. God bless you all, and I'll see you in the next video.